fifth grade. Happy Tuesday. I hope that you've had a great start to your day so far. Today we are sticking with summarizing nonfiction, moving into a different type of nonfiction today. Yesterday we started using the 5 W's and 1 H strategy for descriptive nonfiction text. The text that we looked at all had to do with animals, and this is because descriptive text will take one topic and branch out to all the features, behaviors, and information about that topic. Today, we're moving away from descriptive text into procedural. But before we get into that, I want to go back through the strategy that we started working through yesterday. We'll keep with this strategy for the entire week and add a little bit onto it each day. For today, our learning goal remains pretty similar to yesterday's. I can summarize using supporting details in a procedural informational text. By the end of the week, our goal is to not only be able to summarize using the supporting details in nonfiction text, but be able to put it into writing. We'll start working on the writing element on Thursday. As you watch this video, I want you to think about how each of the 5 W's and 1 H work together in order to give the reader the most important parts during the summary. Our summary should only have what is most crucial for the reader to know. Because remember, the point of summarizing is to be able to bring what you know about the text to someone who has not read it. Let's bring the facts together. When did the summer occur? Where's the place that they were? Why did the whole thing happen? No one went right away. Well, I'll guide you when you're mystified. Our who, of course, has to do with the person or group of people or animals and so on who are in the spotlight during the text. The what has to do with what the text is really focusing on, what is happening in your text. When, of course, relates to the dates and times that are happening. In procedural text, we won't have very many dates though, because it's going to be teaching us how to do something new. So what we can focus on for our purpose today is how long something will take, the duration. Yesterday, when we thought about when, with the descriptive text, we put it in the context of lifespans or important seasons to the who's in our text. Where has to do with location, and the location can be general or specific. So to be general, where I am is in a room. To be specific, I am in my bedroom at my house in Richmond, Virginia, USA, planet Earth. Our why has to do with what has caused the events to happen, and the how is the order or the process in which those happen. Because procedural text is any time the author wants to teach us as the reader how to do something, the how is going to become really important for us. Procedural text can look many different ways, but it always has specific steps that walk you through how to reach a specific goal. The goal might be cooking a recipe, teaching your cat how to fist bump, setting up a tent, anything like that. Another common place we see these sorts of things are in tutorial videos. Our procedural nonfiction texts and other types of media will use transitional words like first, second, next, then, third, last to help the reader or listener understand the flow of things. The process is really important in this type of text. When we think about procedural, we see the root word procedure. another reason why the how in our 5W's, 1H's strategy will become so important. When we look at this pickles recipe with the messy handwriting on the side here, we don't have a lot of text to work with, and we want to really take into consideration why we are writing a summary or telling someone a summary. Our summary is meant to give our other person or reader or listener only the most important parts of the text so that they get the gist without having to have actually read it. When we look at this recipe, there's not a lot of text to work with. It's all in that bottom left corner. That's your right. All bottom right corner. Bring to boil, pour over, cukes, nickname for cucumber. Put in jars, will keep 1 month in refridge, nickname for refrigerator. We can't really summarize that, and it wouldn't be very efficient for us to do. But if we look at a recipe that has more complicated steps, or any other type of more complicated procedural text, we want to be very clear about the order in which things happen. So for this, our who in our pico de gallo recipe, it's a type of salsa. In our pico de gallo recipe, your who, you could put down the person who created the instruction manual, recipe, etc. But usually it's addressing us as the reader. So think a little bit like second person. They're teaching us how to do something without us being a character in the text. So for who, I'll say chefs. What, of course, usually we find this in the title, and we do, how to make salsa. For our when in procedural text, we need to think about the time frame because usually we don't need a date to work with or understand the flow of things. B, there just simply won't be a date or time present. So on here, what you do see is that in the top, they'll usually put down the amount of time it takes to make whatever it is the goal of the text will be. So for us, it will take 15 minutes. Where? If you're thinking kitchen, you got him. Hopefully you're thinking kitchen. For the why does anyone make salsa? Because it is delicious. Even in the first sentence, if we use our text-based evidence, it says this pico de gallo recipe is fresh, delicious, and easy to make. For our why, it is fresh, delicious, and easy to make. Another appropriate answer could be, I'm so hungry. For our how, this is going to be really the bulk of what we are working with this type of text, because we see almost a third of our whole text is dedicated to the instructions. So for the how, we want to really take into consideration our transitional words. This is our first, next, then, secondly, all of it. So when I look at our instructions, I want to be very careful. First, we need to put the onions, jalapenos, limes, and salt together. So first, combine and to be quick, I'm going to say everything but the tomatoes and the cilantro because I want this to make a lot of sense for my reader. I want them to get the information they need and go. So combine all ingredients except for the tomatoes and cilantro. Second, add in the tomatoes, cilantro, and stir all together. Last, let it marinate or soak up together for 15 minutes. Once we have all of these things put together, our who, what, when, where, how, and our very long, who, what, when, where, why, and our very long how, then we're able to quickly get the information that is the most important about the text to our reader. I now want to try a little bit more of a complicated text, but it is something that you're pretty familiar with if you're a 5th grader at this point. So I'm going to give you the length of a song. It will be between 4 and 5 minutes, and the text is going to be about the scientific method. As you go, I want you to fill through your who, what, when, where, why, and your how as you work. After the song is up, we'll go back through each of these together and check back in the text for evidence. One more minute. Okay, and that is timed. Go ahead and pause if you do need to take a little bit more time to read over again or more carefully. At this point, I am going to go ahead and start working through our summarizing strategy for 5Ws, 1H all together. For our who, scientist. For our who, we can add in, I apologize. For our who, we have scientists. The what we can find in the first paragraph or the title. And the what for this is, if we're going to bring it down to just a couple words, not quite the main idea, but a little bit more smaller and focused. So, scientific method. Again, for procedural text, the when is not going to be very crucial for us. With the scientific method, though, we can make a general statement and say that we use it any time that we are going to be conducting an experiment. For the where, our experiment is the location that we are doing. So it might be in a lab. In this text, they talked about an experiment that you could do at home with bread. But for this, let's be a little bit special and we'll say the lab. We are scientists, of course. And as our why, we'll want to think about if there is a specific part of the text where it justified the use of this procedure. I can think of a part in about the first couple paragraphs where they had a great quote. I want you to take just a minute to look and see if you can find a quote that gives us a good why for the scientific method, why we should use it, or they would want to teach us about it. Okay, find it right here. A way to prove if our ideas about the world are right or wrong. So why helps us prove our idea. The how is going to be, in a procedural text, always the specific steps that you'll take in order to reach your goal. So for us, because we're talking about the scientific method in this text, we'll have the 6 methods. So we have 1, our question stage, pose a question stage. For 2, we are going to be researching. 3, this is when you make your hypothesis. I'm abbreviating, writing hypo. Our 4th step is to actually conduct the experiment. So design and conduct. Our 5th step is to make a conclusion. The special word for this is conclude. And our final step is to publish our results, to put it out there, the report. Tomorrow, we are going to step away from procedural text and start getting ready to verbalize or talk through our summaries. And then on Thursday and Friday, we'll be focusing on writing them. For today, your practice is going to be to look at another procedural text that involves an experiment that some people might be able to do at home if you have just the right things to do it. As you work through your practice on the procedural summary, what you want to keep in mind are your 5 W's And for this specific task, our big 1H, our how is really the bulk of our summaries when we're thinking about steps in order to reach a certain goal in nonfiction text. Good luck on your practice. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you back tomorrow. Before we close out, I do want to remind you that as good readers, that as all good readers, you of course, because you're all good readers, you know how to summarize with the supporting details using the 5 W's and your one big H.